and companies. Let's get chatting with the management of Pokarna on our show. It's the first management that joins in to give us their business outlook for the year going ahead as well. We do have with us the leader of the company. We do have, Paras Jain, who's the CEO of Pokarna, joining in. It's been a big mover all of this year itself. Thanks a lot, Mr. Jain, for joining in. First half of this year, 23% revenue growth, 28% EBITDA growth. You had earlier targeted 15 to 25% growth for the entire year in terms of top line, with 30 to 35% coming in the quartz business and slightly muted performance for the granite business. As things stand at the first 9 months of this year, do you maintain this guidance? Do you believe you can do better? Or if you could give us a specific number, 15 to 25% overall growth is fairly wide. Would you be closer to 25 or closer to 15?
Thank you for having me on the show. So on the quartz side of the business, we are expecting over 30% growth now for the full year. So if you see the performance for the first 6 months, we expect that the numbers of half year would typically be repeated in the next half of the year as well. On the granite side of the business, we think that the business will continue to be muted as it has been in the past. But the more growth and visibility which we are seeing is more on the quartz side at this time.
Paras, good afternoon. Thank you for joining in. You had mentioned earlier that your efforts are directed towards getting the granite business back in towards profitability in FY25. Do you see that happening with 3 months to go for the year to end, or what is the expected timeline for this business to turn profitable now?
So I think that's going to take a little more time than what we originally envisaged. But I think we are going to make it up more from a quartz side in terms of compensating. But of course, that's not compensating for the granite business, but we see more growth and visibility, possibility all happening at the quartz side of the business. Granite has got its own challenges with the Chinese demands, and in general, the product has got a shrinking application in the global market and as well as in India. But then having said that, we are making efforts to make sure that we try to contain the losses as much as we can, or reduce the business to a level where we can manage it in a way it's more sustainable in the long term.
So for the full year, your earlier range on the revenue was 15 to 25%. Where does it end? 15 or 25?
So I think on a quartz side of business, we would typically end with 30% plus revenue increase, is what we are seeing at this time.
All right, you aren't giving a commitment for the entire business itself. Let's talk about, a couple of things. One, performance of the US markets, how the demand is out there. You did allude to improving prospects out there because of the rate cuts that have happened. But the next year, now the Fed is saying just 2 rate cuts instead of 4 earlier. Then you have a new, president joining on Jan 20th itself. What does all of this bode for the US business? If you could give us an outlook of what you are foreseeing in FY26.
See, we think that the US market is still improving than what it was in the recent past. And we believe that the commercial market is also going to improve in the US going forward. And of course, whatever Fed has recently said about limited rate cuts, but I think whatever they have done so far, typically, and with buoyancy being expected with Trump being back and the constructions, what have been held up for a long time, a lot of our customers and the channel checks tells us that many builders are re-looking at the projects, and the groundbreaking is probably going to happen once the new president takes over and has some more visibility for the economy given. So I think overall, we see that FY26 is going to be a good year for the US and for us also in general.
How much is US as part of your overall business, Paras?
Over 90% of our product goes to the US.
And you expect that to remain at these similar levels, or do you expect the domestics to grow a little more?
Domestic and other markets would grow, but typically the volume is so much in the US that whatever you do, it's very difficult to really make a big impact in the percentage there. But I think while the other markets would grow, US will typically continue to be our primary market.
All right. So FY26, what is the kind of growth that we can expect in the US? Because, you have a new line coming in. There is Creos and all the other products that will start selling in the 4th quarter as well. So FY26, what should the revenue profile of the company look like in terms of growth and products?
See, basically FY26, we may be commercializing our new line by the end of FY26. So we don't expect anything much to be contributed by the new Capex, which we announced in FY26 revenues. So I think what we would have typically would be coming from our existing assets, or whatever this Chromia and Crayon, what we are going to add. So typically, I don't have a number to give you for 26 at this time, but I think there's going to be a sizable, reasonable growth.
What about this Capex itself, the 440 crore Capex that you have, which comes on stream by the end of FY26? What are the typical asset turns on this, of this 440 crore? What is the annual revenue projection?
So typically we project about 1 to 1.25 tons, basically. So typically that's the number what we are expecting. But I think, as I've told in the previous calls and also in general, that our focus is more on improving the bottom line and the margins rather than chasing the top line and then just making the numbers.
Final question, Paras, very quickly. What is the timeline on the sale of your apparel business? Is there a timeline? And if that happens, what is the kind of value you're expecting from that?
So typically, currently the apparel business is a discontinuing operation. So the business is almost completely wound up. So we are actively looking for the partners, but we don't have yet found anybody. So I think the large part of the monetization there would be of land and building and some part of machines. So we don't have a number at this time to give you, but I think it's going to take some more time to get that business off.
All right, we take that point. We'll speak to you after the third quarter results to get a better sense into what your projections for the next year are in terms of margins and the outlook in terms of what the apparel business is doing as well. And we'll find out how Crayon and Chromia are doing as well. Thank you so much for joining in and giving us an update in the middle of the quarter for your business. We take a short break. As we do that, let's introduce Growth Code, a special initiative by Grow and CNBC-TV18. It's the aim of empowering investors and traders. Prominent investors and professional traders gathered at Grow's Trading Right event on November 9th to share their valuable insights and strategies. A snippet of Arjun Tandon, partner at Kailasa Capital Advisors, sharing his thoughts on the risks of trading with small capital. Let's listen in.
Let us say anybody who wants to do option selling. तो ऑप्शन सेलिंग में लगभग 1-1.5 लाख लगता है पर लॉट. अब अगर आपको इन सारी चीज़ों का बेनिफिट उठाना है, आप चाहते हो कि मैं थोड़ा डिफरेंट इंडाइसिस में काम कर लूँ, थोड़ा पोजीशन साइज एक्स्ट्रा रख लूँ, तो मुझे लगता है 10 लाख 15 लाख इंडेक्स के लिए आपको चाहिए ऑप्शन सेलिंग. उससे कम में आप जाओगे तो इट इज़ डिफ़िकल्ट टू सस्टेन. सी इम्पॉसिबल कुछ नहीं है, हर चीज़ प्रोबेबिलिटीज़ की गेम होती है. प्रोबेबिलिटीज़ आपके अगेंस्ट होती जाएंगी जितनी छोटी कैपिटल के साथ आप मार्केट में आ रहे हो. अगर आप सेम ऑप्शन सेलिंग स्टॉक्स में करना चाहते हो तो नेचुरली आपको डिफरेंट स्टॉक्स में पोजीशंस बनानी पड़ेंगी. कल को किसी भी स्टॉक में कुछ भी न्यूज़ आ जाती है तो वो आपके अगेंस्ट जाएगा. तो स्टॉक्स में अगर आपको पोजीशन बनानी है तो आई फील 20 लाख के आसपास आपको चाहिए, सो दैट आप एक डिफरेंट नंबर ऑफ स्क्रिप्ट्स में आप ट्रेडिंग कर पाओ.